I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello and welcome everyone once again to another very special episode of the AfterBuzz TV After Show for Motherland, Fort Salem. Today we're talking episode 9 and we're doing it with my fantastic team, Tori Weaver.
Yes, hello, I am back. I'm so sorry that I missed you guys last week, so I saw you guys had an amazing interview, but I'm excited to be here now talking with my favorite panel.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you back. Yeah, your presence was sorely missed, so glad to have you back. Gunnar Texera.
We have a full unit this week, and we have a very special leader with us, and I can't wait to talk with her.
Brian Santos.
Yay! I'm actually the one that didn't spoil it this time. I didn't throw it out the guests we're having or allude to it, so I am happy about that. So excited to be here with you guys, and can't wait to break down this episode. It was a lot.
I'm your moderator, Kevin Allen, but I am not the leader that everyone is referring to. No, we have a real leader with us today. That is General Sarah Alder herself, live from Belgium, Miss Lyne Renée.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here, Lyne. We're so excited to have you here. Not only was episode 9 Coup like an amazing episode with the best cliffhanger ever, but your character has been a great topic over the season, a source of contention and debate. And we're so happy to have you here, your fantastic talent, and also you to kind of share your presence in that. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of some things with the good general. So, but before
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited, and yes, let's get to the bottom of Alder.
Yeah.
So we're first going to talk about the unit. They're rebelling against the system. We're going to talk about the general. She is taking over the system. And then we're going to talk about our good Sergeant Quartermain, who's kind of torn between the two. But before we dive into those details, I want to hear everyone's thoughts on just the episode as a whole. You've already heard mine. Gunnar, how did you find the episode?
Tori, I got no comments. I'm still hopeful for our favorite leader, and the episode is just insane.
Brian, how about you?
I have to just apologize to the world. For the first few episodes, I was coming for Anacostia. I was like, something feels off about her. Here I was standing Alder, and then lo and behold, just, I was being Boo Boo the Fool, and that's what happened to me. So I'm ready to talk about this because it is a lot of drama.
All right. Well, with that new perspective in mind, Tori, how did you like this episode?
Y'all tried to call me crazy when I said that I didn't trust Alder. She was up to no good. I said that from the very beginning, and I was like, no, give her a chance. Nope, all chances are out the window because she was doing some foolishness, and I tried to tell y'all. But it was a really, really good episode, and I'm so glad that we have Lyne here because it was so much to unpack. There were so many times when my jaw dropped. Like, I was texting Gunnar, like, what in the world is happening?
Oh.
Like, I can't even believe that we're so close to the end of the season because I was shook.
Yeah, there was some shaking going on. Lyne, did you have a chance to watch the episode just as a viewer? Obviously, you were there shooting it, but did you get to see it as it was presented on television?
Yes, I did. I saw it yesterday, and it's interesting because we read the scripts around the table reads every time we're about to shoot a new episode, and that's one thing, and making it is another. But then seeing it in its whole is just, it blew me away. I was sitting there going, "Oh my God!" So much is happening, and everything gets kind of unraveled in 9 and. Yes, there's a lot of decision making that is happening, and I'm getting a lot of questions thrown at me from a fan base like, "Oh no, Alder, no, what are we gonna do with you? What's gonna happen? She's making wrong decisions." But I'm always, the first to somewhat to defend Alder and say, look, you got to understand the decision she's making, and is she completely going into the dark? We don't know. 10 is still coming, and if 9 blew you away, just wait and see what 10 is going to do to you.
Oh God, I can't wait. You mentioned the fans are throwing a lot at you. Well, luckily we've got Brian Santos watching our chat right now. So our fans, we know you guys are with us because you're amazing. Thank you for being here as well. while
Thank
you're
you to the
throwing
fans.
your comments and questions at us, we will definitely share them. Feel free to like and subscribe and ring bells. We that way when episode 10 drops and we get ready to talk about that, we can get right into it. All right, let's get into episode 9, Coup. This one starts a little Games of Thronesy where a unit that we're not familiar with is walking through the woods and they come across dead bodies that have been arranged to form cryptic symbols. So that's, setting off a wonderful tone for this. They've all had the voice boxes thrown out, which is just a special kind of mutilation that's unique to this show. That's how we started off. It just put everyone in the right mood. You guys in that mood?
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it. Love
Great.
some
All right.
gruesome
Cool.
gore.
Let's move right along then. Let's get to what actually happens here. So our unit has been in their first real mission, and it was one of deceit and betrayal and using excessive force on civilians, and it cost the life of one of their fellow cadets. Like, probably the worst way to get their feet wet in the military. And Tally, more than anyone, is ready to just wash her hands of the whole thing. She wants to rebel, she wants to do something. And at her sides, who they're supporting her are Annabelle, who doesn't think it's a good idea, and Raelle, who doesn't know how they'd even go about doing it.
Mhm.
Abigail. You
Yeah.
said Annabelle.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. I've mentioned a number of times I'm bad with names, but okay. So Abigail, she's back at base, and she's got a whole nother perspective now that she's had the whole time. What are your thoughts on that,
Mhm.
Tori?
I mean, I know everybody knows that I'm like on Abigail's team, but she has experienced so much within the past couple of episodes that has really just shifted her mind completely. And it's kind of hard to watch because she hasn't really had proper time to heal from either one of those things before she's thrown into something else. And I mean, not just her, but everyone, but I'm saying her because she lost her cousin and then she turned around and lost Libba as well. And that was just like, geez, like how many more times will she have to honor the dead within the next like episode? So that was just kind of like heartbreaking to watch. But like you said, it's the reality of what they do. I think this series has always hinted that out of all these great victories and the great battles that the witches have had, there's always been a life lost or someone has lost someone they're connected to. So I kind of knew that it was building up towards that. I didn't know who was gonna like leave the cast or anything like that, but I knew it was coming because in all of their great stories, they've lost someone important to someone.
Well, and that's the first conversation we get to hear with this episode is the unit arguing the cost of war and the semantics within. And so Abigail's coming up with a perspective that, yeah, there's collateral damage and there's consequences. There's no such thing as a perfect war. But you've got Tally, who's now arguing a completely different perspective than you'd expect from someone in the military, of being like, then it's not worth fighting almost. If there's going to be needless cost, then why are we even doing it?
Well, can I jump in with that? Because you also said,
Absolutely.
like, you said that, it's probably the worst way to get introduced. And I think if, as Alder would be the first to say, I think it's the best way to get introduced about what these girls are going to be facing with, because there is a war. We have an enemy and casualties are going to happen. So, if Alder would have been there in that room where Tally, talks about the civilians that have lost their lives, Alder has been through that for so many years and years and years, and this is what happens. People will lose their lives, and you can't go around that. And as a soldier, you need to toughen up and know that that is going to happen, because otherwise you can just pack your bags and go home. But that's the interesting thing, what's going to happen and what's starting to,
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a really
I want
good
to
point.
I want to echo that because I was thinking the same thing about Tally. Like, I am the biggest Tally stan, maybe second to Gunner, but I was just like kind of confused because she is one of the people that's like all about the military, and she should understand that perspective. Maybe there was, I'm not saying that it was right in any way, shape, or form, but maybe there was like 8 people in there, 8 civilians. And Alder's decision really was for millions. They could have set off those balloons, not just in the US, but across the world. So the fact that they, had to risk those 7 lives or sacrifice those 7 lives to save millions, save the world essentially, like I don't understand why the the unit is not seeing that perspective. They probably are, but they're just so torn up about it, and they're not understanding that this is really just what happens in war.
Thank you so much,
Mhm.
Brian. You're with me. You can
Yes.
come in my unit and come fight with me.
Yes, here we go.
Okay, not that I'm trying to actively oppose the general here, but I think it's a difference between when it's like just an abstract number and it's someone that is close to you, because then it's not just an abstract number, it's
Sure.
actual emotions and consequences that are much more tangible and real to you.
Mhm.
And I think Tally's problem isn't necessarily that there's casualty of war, but the fact it kind of is the principle of it, that she gave them intel, that the higher up called her a liar and then decided to kill civilians anyway without trying to look for another route. Again, there is no such thing as a perfect fight, but I think it was just the effort not being made, or the fact that they were just so quick to dismiss everything. And it probably shatters this vision she has of what the military is. Because, yeah, she's always been gung ho for the military, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, she's not had an actual connection to it before. Like, she's not part of a lineage like the Bellwethers are.
No.
Her parents
Exactly.
didn't die in it like Rael
Yeah.
did. She's just kind of gotten the propaganda of it, and the idealist vision that the general has been painting for everyone. Now she's behind the scenes and seeing that it's not what those in the military and the media have been painting it as.
Mhm.
And so I just thought this was a really cool. This episode started off with like the hardest discussion about
Mhm.
militarization, and it did it with characters who are actively engaged in the military. I just thought that was amazing.
Yeah, and I think
Mhm.
with Tally, you have to remember that like her mom didn't want her to go, and so
Mhm.
she worked all this time to prove to herself and her mother that this was the best decision. And then she gets to this point, and it's kind of like questioning all of that. And nobody wants to tell, nobody wants to go back to your mom like, you were right, you told me
Yeah.
so. And so I think she's kind of
Mhm.
like battling that, because for this entire series, she's been trying to prove like, this was my decision, this was the right one, this is the cause I want to be a part of. And in this episode, she gets a taste that it's not all that she thought it would be. And a part of that is what she was tuning out from her mother. So I think we're also getting that kind of way of thinking from her as well.
Mhm.
You, Gunnar, do you have a thought?
See, I'm completely right there with Tori and Brian. I know even the chat are kind of agreeing with you, Kevin, but Tally for me, it's kind of, I see her shift to Rael's perspective of the military is almost like questioning and thinking, just going on like more of a negative perspective. And Rael and Abigail are realizing, Tally, this is part of war. There is no perfection in it. And as hard as to say, that's the most important part about being like a leader like Alder, that you have to make those calls and say, do I
Mhm.
save the few and do the right thing, or do I stop the villain when I can?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, yes, I get the intel, and I don't think that Alder, would have said that was a lie. I think she very much understood that there were civilians in there, but again, she has done this before. People will lose
Mhm.
their lives, and like you just said, sometimes it's when Alder makes a decision, she has to think about, am I going to lose 8 lives, or am I going to protect thousands
Yeah.
while losing those 8? And that is a decision that Alder makes quickly. But
Mhm.
Tally being, these girls are so young, they're so green, they haven't even, finished their training, and they're thrown
Yeah.
into this incredible situation, which is so overwhelming, and they're not prepared for it in a way.
Mhm.
And I think that happens in real life as well. When you think about the military and these boys, you can train for everything, but when you face reality and it's actually happening, it's a completely different story.
Yeah, I would echo you what you said, Lynn, but just about the timeliness, because that was like, I guess the big arc of it is that she had to make that decision like in a second, because that truck
Yeah,
was just gonna keep going. So if they didn't stop it now, they're gonna,
Yeah,
finish their mission. So I really want to jump into
exactly.
the chat real quick and say hi to them, because they're amazing.
absolutely.
We love them. We got Tony, Ivan, Katie, Yard's grandpa, all our usuals. We love you guys for being here. Tony even said that I'm going to be one of Alder's biddies, so I'm excited for that. I just can't deal with the wrinkles, but I would love that. But yes, thank you guys for being here. Ask your questions. We love them.
So
Hi everyone, thanks for watching.
the unit does decide to do something about their feelings and their interpretation of how the call was made. So they go to General Petro Bellwether and kind of let them know what intel they've got about the civilians that's kind of being kept from her, and also about Scylla. They just kind of drop that bomb a little quietly before they exit out. And she goes on and tells her commander in chief, and we're going to get to that. But the second thing that Tally does as a response to uh, all that she's feeling right now is hooks up with Garrett
Woo!
all the
Yes,
time.
queen. Wait, actually, I'm just gonna jump in again on this because
Do
I've
it.
said it before. I don't like Tally being a side piece, and that's what she's doing. You know, she is so much better than that. And for her to just go at his becking call, I mean, maybe not at at his becking call, but kind of in that vein of just like, okay, Garrett messaged me, like I'm gonna go. Like it's definitely like a WYD at 2:14 a.m. kind of situation, you know. So I'm like, I've been there and I understand the sister, but at the same token, I'm like, girl, don't be a side piece. Like, find you a man that's gonna appreciate you and love you and make you his number one because you are the number one. And that's all I have to say. Goodbye.
Yes, but also what I do like about that is that Tally almost doesn't make him her number one. She kind of goes like, I am facing all these things right now, and it's so much and it's so hard to handle. And I'm going to use my little sidekick somehow to kind of get off some steam. And in a way, because, men are not considered, the same like in our reality. And that's what I find so beautiful about our show, because it challenges so many, thoughts and concepts that we have in our head, but it's just all, mixed around. But then again, when she does find out that Garrett's wife has come back and she wants to involve her, she kind of puts her foot down and goes, okay, well, dude, that's not what I'm here for. So I kind of like that about her.
Yeah, just to chime in on that, I don't like the fact that he's married. Like you said, Brian, I just feel like we should leave this alone. But when you brought up something beautiful that I've noticed since I think Beltane, I just love how this series pushes what our social norm is. Because a lot of times when we think of sex, we think of like the man is taking something from the woman. That's how we've always, viewed it. It's always like something to protect because somebody's going to take it from you. And I love how this series reverses that. Like, no, the women have the power. They are using it to bring more power to themselves. And I think that's a beautiful message that we can push in our own society, even though this is from like, this fictional show. I just love how they challenge that and change that and don't shame women for doing what they want to do and finding different ways to charge themselves up. Because now it's ready for battle, doing her thing because she did this, and she's not a weaker person because of it. She's not any of these things. If anything, she's better. And so I love that about this. But like you said, Brian, I do wish Garrett wasn't married and he wasn't trying to, sneak around and bring extra people and stuff like that. But I think if anything comes from this messy situation, it is that. So I do like that about this.
I was like, threesome.
Alder as well. She has no emotional connection to the Witch Father. She literally knows that she has to use his male power to her advantage to create the incredible with Beltane, the basically all the orgasms together to feel their and that is just an incredible thing. And I actually liked it that there was no emotion involved. I mean, Alder has been doing this for so long. She just knows you are I need you for that, and I will use you for that. And the men almost, sacrifice themselves for that. It's almost an honor, which is an incredible thing, to bring into the show and challenges the mindset of our world.
No, absolutely. And I did not feel that it was a male forward scene. I really felt like Tally was in charge. And then when they got walked in on, I really felt like Garrett's wife, whose name escapes me right now, was the one in charge. I never felt like Garrett had the power. It wasn't until it came out that he knew that was going to happen and thus was kind of setting Tally up that I was like, oh, wait, now he's taken control of the situation from her. And that's where it wasn't cool. Communication is key.
Yeah.
So that's just where that whole scene lost me. I was like, oh my God, they got caught. Oh my God, this is working out somehow in Tally's advantage. But then we come to find out what her wishes are. And
But
there's nothing.
it did show, of course, that Tally still has those feels, because I personally feel like if she wasn't feeling Garrett the way she's feeling, she would have been all about that threesome, because she would have been like, oh, you got twice the charge, like the Energizer Bunny.
Exactly.
But
So true.
because she still has these feels for Garrett, that's why she was so up. She said, I am not gonna let, like, the kind of whole thing I was thinking about being a side piece. She's like, I'm not gonna be like an accessory to this like fantasy that you have, or doing what she wants. It's on Tally's
Mhm.
terms. So that's why I was
Yeah.
like, girl, no, don't be Boo with the Fool 2.0, because I'm already Boo with the Fool and I can't deal if you are too.
And it's so beautiful because Tally represents a certain naivety. How do you say naivety? Am I saying that right?
No one really
To-
knows. Honestly, with that
Thank
word,
you.
no one really knows.
And it's like she's got so much to learn, and it's beautiful how she's going to be, you know, confronted with these situation, and she's going to go through such a learning curve. But
Mhm.
it's the girls sometimes that you go like, oh, she's a little naive. Like, don't, like, hold your horses, because sometimes it's those girls that turn around the quickest and prove you
Yeah.
wrong. So
Mhm.
again,
Mhm.
like, watch
Well,
out for 10.
I'll
Mhm.
say Tally, in my opinion, was full of surprises in this
Yeah,
episode, and
absolutely.
I feel like everyone felt that. All right, let's talk about General Alder. Uh, at the top of her scenes in this episode, she is having another session between her sergeants and generals with her biddies in the room. There's new intel, there's new discoveries all being shared with her. My takeaway from that scene where she was getting all this new intels were that the biddies will hiss at everything.
Yeah.
That's what I got out of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
just pissed.
the biddies are basically Alder's senses. They feel what I feel. They think what I think. They breathe through me. And Alder is being put in a very how do I say this? It's a tight situation because the spree is changing as well. They're coming up with
Mhm.
new weaponry. They're always a step ahead of her, and Alder's not used to that. So, I think the biddy's hissing is what Alder feels internally. She
Mhm.
is hissing on the inside because she can't get control of the spree. They've come at her. They've had the one attack after the other, and she's not been able to outsmart them. And Alder might
Mhm.
not be showing it, but she's being pushed in a corner. And beware when that happens, because when her claws will come out, they will come
Mhm.
out.
Well, so the scene I'm referring to when she's brought up this information about the Camarilla, and that seemed like it really got under her skin.
Yeah.
That either the spree are using their techniques, or they're working with them, or they're a resurgence of them. This, and I believe this is the first time we've heard about them. Am I correct on that?
Yes, that's so true. The Camarilla were Alder's worst enemy hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And it has been one of her biggest quests to defeat them. And she has defeated them. And for them to bring it up, it's almost an insult.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with the spree. Why are you bringing up the Camarilla? This isn't the Camarilla. They're extinct because of her. That battle
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
done. Don't waste my time with this. This can't be. Also, given the fact that a lot of other witches have been mimicking certain techniques of old witches that are now coming back.
Mm.
So she doesn't believe that the Camarilla, could come back. For her, she's so fixated on the spree because she can't figure it out. They're outsmarting her. Their
Yeah.
techniques are evolving. Their weapons are changing, and she's just, in a way, it's the first time that Alder is being pushed to her limits that way.
So now she's dealing with both extremes. She's got an enemy,
Mhm.
an invisible enemy that blends right in with the community, that is
Mhm.
constantly changing their techniques, and one
Mhm.
like an old familiar one that is really painful memories using those old techniques. So like there's no middle ground here for her. So I could see why, yes, the biddies are hissing a lot, and I could see why she's feeling directly challenged now. This isn't just a military thing. With the Camarillo revelation, it's starting to become a little more personal for her.
Yeah, it's very personal. I mean, her entire family was taken by the camera. All those voice cords in there are people that she knew that were close to her, and the one that isn't in there was hers because they were after her. And I think the defeat of the Camarines has been her biggest victory. So the fact that someone would challenge her to take that away is just like she doesn't even want to go there.
All right, I'm starting to understand her motives a little more. As the series goes on, or this episode goes on, I'm starting to understand why she is having a hard a time as she is, why she's making decisions that may seem questionable but are just really tough, and that she's listening to what her subordinates have to say, but maybe not going along with their plans. After all, she's got hundreds of years of experience on them. But when she entered the scene with Adil and his sister Kalita, and was actively challenging a child and threatening her, that's one. But also the child proves out to be like very powerful. So I'm like, there's no good outcome here.
Well, I mean,
Challenging her.
The child, she comes in the form of a child, but she is a very ancient witch.
We
And
knew
Alder,
it.
Alder doesn't, you know, a child and Tally and an elder woman, it's the same for her. Those forms won't change how she will approach that person. And the way that Kalita addresses Alder is just, I mean, nobody addresses Alder that, and she won't make the difference whether you're looking like you're 12 or 88. It's just, you don't talk to me, you challenge me like that, you better be aware. And that's why I throw the last look to Adil as well, like, you better get her in hand because this is not wow.
Oh man, I personally loved Adil's look at his sister, being like, "What are you doing?" Like, like this is gonna get out of hand real fast.
And working with Kalita was just, I mean, you know, she is, I think she's 11 or 12. And the power that she had on set in challenging me, I just loved it. What she gave me so much to come back at. I remember going, after we did a scene, I kept on apologizing to her because I, as Lynn, felt bad treating a little girl like that. But as Alder, she doesn't flinch, doesn't give it a second thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was quite the stare down. But in my mind, I was like, it's like, Gunnar is absolutely correct. And I feel the way she talks that there's something more to her, that she talks like someone who has life experience. But her approach to Alder and defending the term the way she does is so stubborn. I'm like, she could be a little girl though, just like a really powerful little girl. She's so stubborn, to the point where I was like trying to look at what was on her plate. Like, okay, if it's mac and cheese and chicken nuggets, she's a little girl.
And you know, when the earthquake started to happen because of our stare down, on the day there was a guy sitting from the special effects under the table.
Oh yeah, Hollywood.
Normally they use a device to make a table shake, but it was too much. So he had to make the table. So I had to look at Kalita and Adil sitting there, forgetting about the guy underneath the table, making the table shake, keeping my face. I mean, the things we do sometimes, it's insane.
Movie magic.
Movie magic.
Oh man, well, you did a great job.
Thanks.
So that doesn't go well for her. So she decides to go to a higher up and try to, I guess, get around this thing. She wants to defend the Tarum, and we're a little uncertain of what her motives are. But the good news is that she wants to defend these people, even though there's only a handful of them left. I think that's the right thing to do. And I was a little shocked that President Wade was like, why is everyone so worked up about these people? Like, because they're human lives and you should be protecting them. So
exactly. And they're they're a really old ancient tribe, and you know, they're a witch tribe. And I think that's why Alder, you know, has the conflict with President Wade, because there seems little respect for the kind that I am, the witch kind. And the Tarim is such an ancient line, and they possess a song that reminds me of a song from my kind. And Alder, tries to save everything that has to do with witchcraft and the songs that they use to form their storms and fight their enemy. So even though there's only 10 left, and that's why I'm also so appalled that Khalida would address Alder like that, because I'm actually trying to help them and save the last remaining of the Tarim. It's like everyone is turning against Alder in episode 9, where Alder is like, I'm just trying to do the right thing. Why does Renée just come on my side? Like, Jesus,
Yeah.
I just get the bad eyes looked at me.
Yeah, she hissed back. President Wade, she hissed back.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
I loved that.
I loved when that shooting, that scene, it was so strong. And I think, she's such an incredible actress. And for the two of us to have that face off, it was so strong. And that's the thing, it's like, I don't feel, well, not me, but Alder doesn't feel like she gets the respect for what she's been doing for all these years. At the end of the day, I made a pact with America that I would win their wars if they would build a place for my kind. And we had that agreement. And President Wade is a president that is almost, talks down to what I've been doing for all these years and doesn't respect
I'm Maria
our
Menounos,
kind and the fact that we have built America to what it is today.
Yeah. That's so interesting that you bring that up, Lynn, because I didn't even think about it that way. Like, in today's America, the military is like, it.com. Like, everybody's like, especially like a president would be like all about the military. But it's such an interesting perspective that you're bringing up, that she has done so much. Alder and the witches and this military in this world has done so much, but they still get talked down to. They're still underappreciated for all their work, So it's also a testament to, Alder and being the not the face, or being the person that has to make the tough decisions and not being the face to it, So it's such a complex for her.
It's an interesting dynamic you don't see a lot, especially in American culture. Gunnar, you had something you want to say? Oh, Gunnar, I can't hear you.
You muted.
We lost you. No, Gunnar, come back.
Come back, Gunter.
Sorry.
There we are. It's all right.
The sense of how you said that no one, like a new president is not respecting the history and the historical aspect that comes into the culture that is a witch army. This isn't just simply a division of the government, and that's what we see in our world. And there's also the lack of respect that people give to even that it is a culture in itself. And this one really is a culture within a department. And Alder wants a culture which was hunted down for so many years. And this new person, it's kind of the testament of, well, it's not happening today. You guys have so much power. What does it matter? It's just a few people of your kind. It's like, that is the history and the purity. And they have parts of my culture I don't even know about. I want to preserve that and protect it.
Well, that's exactly. And, this is her 45th president. I did the crossing of the Delaware. I'm Georgina Washington. Do you know what I
Yeah.
Come on, Georgina Washington.
What have I not I have sacrificed everything. How dare you speak to me like that? But of course, Alder doesn't have that higher up. The president is still the president, although the president hasn't gotten even close to what Alder has done.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I know you guys are going to possibly rip me, but I agree. No, I definitely agree. And even though I've said that I'm not like on Team Alder or whatever, I'm not always the biggest fan. I definitely understand. Just like you said, she's been there from the beginning. Like, without her, y'all probably wouldn't be as successful as you are now. And so, but the only thing that I kind of have a different opinion on is the fact that we have seen this before. And I know the comments might rip me apart, but I feel like it's on my chest, so I'm gonna say it. We maybe not with the military. No, like you said, Brian, the military here in the United States is definitely like, that girl. But I think from my perspective, there have been tons of minorities in this country who have done and sacrificed everything everything for this country. They have literally, I know my ancestors built the White House, and we're still not respected. So what I felt from Alder in that moment was that slap in the face is something that we see all the time. Like, imagine pouring everything, like you say, Gunnar, your culture, your history is rooted in the survival of this nation. And then the minute that the nation feels like you're not doing something good enough or something isn't working on their time, now all of a sudden you don't matter and you're just a person or you're just a culture or it doesn't matter. And like you said, with the whole like, oh, well, it's just this small group of people, why does it matter? And so when you said that immediately made me think of like minorities who are killed in the street all the time, where it's kind of like, oh, well, that's just one person, why does it matter? And it's what that means. And so even like I said, even though I'm not the biggest Alder fan, I connected with her in that moment because it's like that's the biggest slap in the face that we see every day. And so I couldn't even imagine like her walking away angry. I'd be like,
No, I'm
this
angry.
is like, I completely understand.
You're breaking
So,
my
even though we
heart
don't
saying you're not the biggest Alder fan.
I'm so
How
sorry. I
dare
couldn't come here and be like, yes, I'm sorry, because I know when you watch back the clips, you're gonna be like, girl, please ripping me apart. But
No fan.
what I was saying was, even though we don't see it in the military aspect, I definitely think there are so many people who have contributed to this nation who are constantly disregarded. That's what I was saying. But yes, I understood Alder in that moment. I felt it.
In that moment, and granted, I do not have that perspective that you have. So thank you for sharing that with me, because that makes that scene so much richer and more valuable. But even so, I still am like, these are human lives, regardless if they're witches or ancient people. Like, you should be protecting them regardless. I hate seeing history being destroyed, especially rare stuff. So back there was also that. So there's multiple reasons that we should side with Alder in this. And I do. Between her argument with her and President Wade, I was absolutely on standing with the biddies and Alder. And I probably would have kept doing that had it not been for that final scene in which she puppeted the president. And that is a whole bag of cats. That's all sorts of metaphysical, ethical quandaries. So I want to hear everyone's take on that moment, because that's a big moment. Go ahead, Gunnar.
My whole discussion, I stand by and everything we're talking about, and then it's like, it's the matter of everything I agree with. I have this point, but then pause, and now a separate thought. That was where I just saw as unacceptable, and I see the reflection of in Harry Potter how one of the unforgivable curses is the brain control spell, because it's taking away someone's free will. It's the aspect of humans have the right to be free and do their own decisions, even if you don't agree with them. And that's why the Hague, is that how you say the Hague? I think the government.
The Hague.
The Hague.
I never say that right. The Hague made it outlawed. In the minute, I love that they kind of explained that too. It wasn't just that Anacostia saw us and like, that's not right. Like, this is illegal, and she's now crossed an official line now with it.
It just like in Harry Potter, it's an illegal, unforgivable curse. So yeah, it's that.
Well, I don't know if I should let the others speak first, because I almost want to defend Alder straight away. But I think, she is breaking protocol completely. But imagine building at something for more than 300 years, and all of a sudden there's one president, and you're so close to getting to a huge victory, and somebody goes, you know what, your time's up, thank you very much, bye-bye. What are you just gonna like abide by that? I mean, as Alder, there's no way. Is it wrong what she's doing? Is she breaking protocol? Absolutely. Will Alder defend what she's doing? Absolutely. You see, I can also defend that again, but of course I see, and look, I love that there's a dark side coming into Alder. I loved playing it. I love challenging an audience. I love challenging myself. And it's a huge moment. It's a big moment, and I think it was so incredible to play that as well on the day.
It looked like an intense scene.
Yeah, it was
also you passed out at the end of it.
It was very intense. I nearly passed out a few times doing that scene because I was just I couldn't. It was pretty intense. But I can't wait to hear the rest of your take on it.
You know, it's so crazy that obviously I was with everybody and I was just like, oh no, girl, like don't do that. But Lynn, when you said it, it's such a good point of just how the president just threw her to the wayside. And I think that's what she was just the most pissed about is like
Mhm.
literally she's given her life, she's given all these centuries of service, and then just one wrong move and she's like, sorry, that's it, thank you, next. Like that's
Mhm.
not how it works. Like I feel like Alder is really her intention is to be as part of the military until the day she dies, until her very bitter end. And for someone to just take that from her, like with no regard, I mean, regard, but just on such a whim, that's why she was just like, oh, hell no. So I definitely see what you're saying there. And yeah, I'm just like, okay, I'm here for it. Here we go, girl. Let's see. Let's shake up this world.
Mhm.
Even objectively, though, like you wouldn't want to shake things up. It's the power dynamic that would happen
Yeah.
in that transition during this like at-home terrorist invasion. That's probably not the best time to change hands for the first time in American history. So, like, it's probably not a good play,
I
by the way.
agree.
But Tori, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Now, when I saw this, like all of our episodes literally were just going through my head and all the things that we said about Alder and like the things I've said about Alder because in previous episodes, you know, I said maybe it is time for a change in leadership just because she's been at it for so long and the spree is developing these new things. And sometimes a change in leadership can kind of change your perspective and we can use some new tactics. Now, I didn't like the way that the president went about it because, like you said, Kevin, I mean, we're in the middle of fighting something. That's not the best time to switch leadership. Like maybe we can discuss, you know, we can have a little review assessment like you do at your job, you know, after it's over, like how did you do?
Not a
We think
performance review.
right, a performance review, like we could have done some things better. I think like that conversation definitely needs to be had because there's been a lot going on with trying to fight the spree. So I don't think it was the best time. But then when she took over the president, I was like, ooh, no, I don't like that. Because like you said, I don't know if the president was making the right call or not. I mean, we'll never know because she was taking over and now Alder is still in leadership. But if somebody makes the wrong decision, I think the best thing is to make them stand on it. Like if you're going to make this decision and if it's not the right one, you're going to have to take accountability for making that wrong decision. And I think that would have been a lot more powerful of letting the president change over leadership. Maybe it goes and crashes and burns and they have to bring Alder back in. And now you have to kind of, the president then has to respect Alder. And I think I would have liked seeing that rather than her not being able to make her own decision. Because we wouldn't have known what would have happened if Petra Bellwether was in charge. Like we don't know. We will never know. So I think it would have been better, in my opinion, to just kind of like make her stand on it and for us to actually see the opportunity for a change in leadership because we've never seen it. So how do we know that this is best when we've never tried anything else? I feel like sometimes I'm more for trying and failing and learning from it than just leaving stuff alone, even though it comes with ups and downs, you know? So I didn't like that. I did not like that. And like I said, I'm not someone who likes to be spoken for. So that just really, I was like, don't change my words. Don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say that. So that just really hurt my heart that she was doing that. But like I said, I was right. You know,
But it makes for great storytelling.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it
absolutely.
does. It was
On all
definitely
this
a
note,
glued to the TV moment.
I'm going to have to make a very tough decision and cut this conversation now because we only have a little bit of time left. Great television is surely in the way. I could go on and we could predict about what next episode is, but I'd rather it just happen to me. Just peel the Band-Aid off. So we want to use our remaining time to have a little Q&A with you, Lynn, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
All right. Gunnar, do you have a question for Lynn?
I love seeing, because clearly you and Alder have connected so deeply as playing this role. What have you learned so much from this incredibly strong woman of a character?
Oh God, I've learned so much from Alder. I mean, she scares the bejesus out of me. When I got the audition, I was like, there's no way I can pull that off. I'm Belgian. I come from the countryside and I have to play an American general. On top of that, she's a witch. That's a challenge. But then again, I love a challenge because I get to grow from it as an actor. Because I always want to get myself out of my comfort zone. And Alder is the opposite of my comfort zone. You know, and I have to question what she's doing and I have to solidify it. Is that the way of saying it? Solidify it? No, like I have to try and agree with her decisions, even though sometimes
justify it.
I
Justify
disagree.
it.
Yes, thank you very much. So for me, Alder, just she's given me so much power, and it somehow resonated through my personal life. After playing Alder for 6 months, I stepped into life with a new sense of strength, a new sense of, God, women, have always been so, we had to fight for our rights. We had to fight to vote. We had to fight to have a voice. And she represents that everything. And that for me was the most incredible thing to play her, to portray a woman who has all that power.
Thank you.
Bryant, how about you?
I know we don't have too much time, so I'm just going to shout out the chat for my question because they just have so much amazing love for you, Lynn. They just think that you're doing amazing as Alder, of course. They love seeing you on the show. They absolutely want a season 2. And yeah, thank you guys all so much for being here. I know we don't have too much time. I can't get too many questions, but yeah, we love Lynn so much too as well. And we will see you for next week.
Thank you so much.
All right, Lynn, like Brian said, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us today. If the fans have questions for you, can they find you online?
They can. I'm an Instagram girl, so DM me. I know that I have a profile on Twitter and Facebook, but I basically never look at them because whenever I do a post, it's through my Instagram. So the best way to reach me is my Instagram, and that's Lynn Renée. At Lynn Renée.
All right, thank you. Tori, where can everyone find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Toxic Model or on Twitter at Tori with 2 E's. Yeah, that's you can find me.
All right. Bryant.
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at The Bryant Santos, and catch me on AfterBuzz TV's Quarantine with the Stars.
Gunnar.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at The Gunnar Thomas.
All right, I'm Kevin Allen. Twitter, Kevin Allen Says. Instagram, Kevin Allen Graham. Thank you all so much for being here for another episode. We will be back next week for the season finale of Motherland Fort Salem. So tune into AfterBuzz TV then.
Thursday at 8 p.m., our usual time.
Oh, great. Usual time.
Right.
All right, we'll see you all then.
Right on.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.